Hello and welcome to this talk on the infeasibility of attribute inference attacks on machine learning models. My name is Benjamin Zhao, and today I'll be running you through this work, which was done in collaboration with my colleagues at Macquarie University, University of New South Wales, Data61 CSIRO, and the Australian Government's Department of Defence Science and Technology Group. Now, when we look at the attack space on machine learning, there's a wide variety of attacks, but they generally fall into two categories here. One that seeks to create unexpected behaviors within the model, and the second, to leak information about that model itself. Under unexpected behavior, you can expect to see attacks such as adversarial examples, poisoning attacks, and backdoor attacks. More specific to our purposes here today are the information leakage attacks, things like model extraction, and even more specifically, membership inference and attribute inference attacks. But before we dive deep into our results, let's recap what membership and attribute inference is. So, membership inference. You as an attacker are given a single vector. With this vector, it is your objective to determine if that record was part of the original training dataset of a given model or not. And yeah, membership inference has been around for a couple of years now, and time and time again we have been shown that yes, membership inference does in fact work. There's also attribute inference, and attribute inference, like membership inference, the attacker is given some starting information, but in this case it's a vector with missing information, and your objective as an attacker is to infer this missing information exactly with access to the machine learning model. Now you might be thinking, oh, anyone could infer this information. I could just use the population distribution and get pretty close. And you'll be correct, but the privacy implication here is if that vector was used as part of the training dataset of the machine learning model, you as an attacker could obtain more information about this vector than just simple access to that distribution. And that's often measured as some kind of advantage given access to this machine learning model. Now, when we first started this work, we wanted to dive deep into attribute inference. And to start, we took a vector, we omitted the 15 most important features that should give us the largest change on the output of the model, and we tried to perform exact attribute inference as we have previously defined. Now, with that, we found out that this advantage for attribute inference was quite negligible. It was very small. And to make sure we didn't do anything wrong, we looked back at our models and we repeated membership inference on them. Membership inference worked. It checked out. But we have this sort of weird mismatch now where we have a model whereby membership inference works, but attribute inference is essentially doesn't work. And to make sure these things check out, we brought back all of these membership inference attacks out and we reevaluated them. In our paper, we would look at 3 different black box attacks and 2 different white box attacks. Now, when evaluating these existing membership inference attacks, we computed the AUC like before, however with one distinction. We computed the AUC between members and groupings of non-members at specific Hamming distances away from the original training dataset. Now, a side note, we used Hamming distance here because both of these datasets shown on the screen were binary. And what we noticed was that vectors further away from the training dataset could be more easily inferred. And that makes sense. If they're further apart from each other, there's more variation in the model's output, and they're easier to distinguish from each other. But there is an interesting element at the very small distances where there is little to no non-member vectors. And when we look at the histograms of these distances, we can confirm that yes, in fact, there are no vectors at these distances. And what that means is that the distribution of non-members from just the population doesn't show the full picture of how this attack would behave. Now, with this missing information at these very close distances, we introduce this new notion of strong membership inference, where you as an attacker are given 2 vectors, say a member and a neighboring non-member, very close to each other, close in the sense of bounded by a distance parameter alpha, you should still be able to determine which one of these is a member and which one of these is not a member. And we treat this strong membership inference definition theoretically as well in the paper. We show as Theorem 1, a successful membership inference attack doesn't necessarily mean that you'll produce an equally successful strong membership inference attack. And as Theorem 2 in the paper, we show an equivalence between strong membership inference and exact attribute inference as we have seen it before, provided that an R-neighbor distinguishability holds. And in general, that's just if you have a function, if there's two vectors close enough to each other, some R distance, then that function cannot discern the difference between them all. There is no noticeable difference as an output of that function. Now, to thoroughly evaluate strong membership inference, we took those existing membership inference attacks and we also took some member vectors and we perturbed them to deliberately produce off-distribution non-members at all of these different distances. And from this figure on the right, we see that the membership inference AUC gradually increases as distance increases. What we also notice from this figure is that the more classes there are in the dataset, the more vulnerable a particular dataset is to membership inference. And that's something that's been observed previously. Now, zooming in on the small distances here on the figure, we can see that strong membership inference starts to fail as we approach these incredibly small distances to the training dataset. It has an AUC of 0.5, or the equivalent to a random guess. And we see that strong membership inference is not possible, which checks out, as we saw in the very beginning, attribute inference produced negligible advantages. Now, the other elephant in the room is this blue line here. Now, its AUC does go back down at very far distances, but we look at that further in the paper and find it's responsible due to dominant classes. If strong membership inference is not possible, as a consequence, attribute inference is not possible. However, that's if you're matching exactly. What if you as an attacker don't need to get an exact match on an attribute, but getting close enough is still very informative? To capture this privacy risk that wasn't captured by the old attribute inference definition, we introduce approximate attribute inference, where you as an attacker seeks to recreate a vector close enough to the original training vector within some alpha distance bound. So to experimentally evaluate approximate attribute inference, we set an alpha bound of 7.5. 7.5 is the distance of a random guess if you had 15 missing binary values. And in comparison to the top table, that's the negligible attribute inference advantage. Approximate attribute inference across these three different types of attribute inference attacks, across these different data sets, we can see that these advantages are non-negligible. And we can conclude from this that it is possible to successfully infer approximate attributes significantly better than a random guess, even or especially when that target model is susceptible to membership inference. So to sum up the key takeaways of this talk, it is in fact difficult to infer exact attributes despite a model being susceptible to membership inference. We have seen that existing membership inference works, they consider datasets where these vectors are quite far apart from each other, so that when we focus in on the close distances, strong membership inference fails and membership inference does not work. Now this is problematic, as without strong membership inference, attribute inference also does not work. But with our new definition of approximate attribute inference, we have been able to show a susceptibility to this attribute inference attack, this approximate attribute inference attack, when this model is susceptible to membership inference attack, a privacy risk that likely was not captured with just attribute inference. Now, what wasn't talked about in the talk, and you can find in our paper, we investigate how dominating classes within a model, they are less susceptible to membership and strong membership inference attacks. We make observations that both membership and strong membership inference attacks, they are susceptible across different machine learning architectures, not just, say, neural networks. And we also saw that overfitting does in fact have a role in approximate attribute inference, and that is in line with what we see with membership inference. So we're connecting the concepts there. And that's the end of the talk. If you'd like to find more about our insights, feel free to check with the paper.